If you don't understand how to do the program, don't dabble in it. It can cause problems. We're liberating toxins at 3 times normal levels, and our protocol is designed to keep pace with the elimination of these liberated toxins. So that's why it's so important. Otherwise, you're just going to have redistribution that's going to lead to all kinds of further complications.
Hello, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Welcome to the Myers Detox podcast. Today we have Daniel Root on the show, and he's going to be talking about sauna detoxification using niacin, which is basically his detoxination protocol explained. And this is something his father developed many, many years ago. And this is actually a detoxification protocol that is approved by the California Medical Board. And it's scientifically validated. It's been used to detox the firefighters after 9/11. It's used to detox policemen. It's just used in a lot of different, environments. Daniel Root describes this comprehensive protocol combining niacin, exercise, sauna therapy, and essential nutrients, and provides us a deeper understanding of how all of these items work synergistically. He also has a book out that we talk about called Sauna Detoxification using niacin, which has gained global recognition because it's so effective and you can detox so much stuff in 30 days using this very, very specific protocol. And we also talk about a lot of shared case studies demonstrating the positive impact on the detoxination protocol and how it can address specific health conditions, reverse the aging process, and just a super, super interesting show for all of you guys that are, into detoxing using your sauna. This show is going to give you a lot of information and details in a way to up-level your game using your infrared sauna. So our guest today, Daniel Root, is a pioneer in the field of detoxification, and he's the son of Dr. David E. Root, who's an MD and a world-renowned expert in occupational medicine and human detoxification of heavy metals and synthetic man-made chemicals. Together, they authored the definitive guide on detoxification called Sauna Detoxification using niacin, following the recommended protocol of Dr. David E. Root. And their groundbreaking work has revolutionized the field, offering a safe, effective, and clinically proven method for reducing bioaccumulated drug residues, heavy metals, hazardous chemicals, radiation, and persistent organic pollutants. You can learn more about Daniel's work and get remote detox coaching or take his Detoxination certification training program at getdetoxinated.com. Daniel, thank you so much for joining the show.
Pleasure to be here, Wendy. It's been a long time in the making, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. I've been wanting to get you on the podcast for many, many years, as you're an expert on infrared sauna detoxification. And so why don't you tell us a little bit about your history and how you became so passionate about this topic?
I could take this all the way back to my father's military career. We could go that far. How much time do we have?
We have plenty of time.
Okay, so first of all, I did not invent this, neither did my father, but it was something that we realized was needed because in occupational medicine, where my father actually, after retiring from the military, he started his practice. And at that time, he was already well aware of the problem with chemical toxicity. I mean, heavy metals, we've always had things like chelation for heavy metals, but there's never been anything for chemical toxicity or for even radiation type or radioactive elements. So his military career was rather storied because he was actually part of the military's top secret space program as a flight surgeon for the manned orbiting laboratory. And that was a project that never really did take off. In fact, it did get moved over to NASA, where they just sent up satellites and didn't put men up in tin cans to spy on the Soviet Union. But that was what the program was for. But my father basically, because of his exposure to the military's top secret programs, and when that program shut down, he was stationed at Beale Air Force Base, where they have the SR-71 Blackbird. And for those who don't know what the SR-71 Blackbird is, just picture what Batman would fly. It's a very high speed, high altitude type of plane, and it would get very hot. So it expands at altitude. But when it's on the ground, it contracts, and it's sort of designed to leak fuel while it sits on the ground. So the exotic JP7 fuels were actually contaminating the ground crews, and they were coming down with some really strange diseases. So it was, he was tasked with trying to find a solution for that. So back in the 60s, 70s timeframe, there was nothing in the literature. And in fact, there's nothing to this day in the medical literature that describes how to detox chemicals. So anyway, when he retired, he moved into occupational medicine in California, and his practice started seeing patients presenting with chemical toxicity from, for example, the index case, as we call it. These were a couple of painters who were exposed inside of a 650,000-gallon water tank to the fumes, the solvents, and all that. And they didn't have any protective personal equipment, so they were inhaling all these fumes and also, I guess, absorbing them. But anyway, they had presented with ataxia, clumsiness, and they also were showing, cognitive decline. They were also argumentative. Their wives were ready to divorce them. And so they were essentially looking for help. And at that time, there was nothing that could help them. So they basically were left to their own devices. But my father serendipitously received a brochure from a company called Body Pure. And now that company was presenting niacin exercise and sauna for detoxification of alcohol and drugs. So the brochure meant nothing to him because he was not into drug and alcohol addiction, but he was essentially intrigued by the fact that it was niacin exercise and sauna. And the sauna had a very important meaning to us because we had been using sauna since the 70s. And so he was very much aware of how important these things are for, the detoxification for, basically the over 3,000 years of detoxification has been done with saunas. Now, that's not necessarily the main reason why they were used, but they were definitely detoxing the body. So anyway, the brochure led him to call this group of people, and it turned out they were a splinter group of Scientologists, of all things, who were bringing the Purification Rundown to the public. And so the Purification Rundown is a drug addiction rehab program, but it's also something that does detox the body of chemical residues. My father received that brochure and he called him up, and it turned out it was a splinter group of Scientologists who were bringing the Purification Rundown to the public. And this is a detox program that has been used successfully for alcohol and drug addiction. And it was actually because the problem with the current detoxification methods is that they don't deal with the cravings. So when somebody has gone through a 12-step program, they are essentially still going to have the effects of the residues coming out of the fat cells. And so whenever you're doing anything that requires energy, like ATP energy, you're actually releasing toxins from the fat cells, and that re-stimulates the dopamine receptors in the brains. So what happens is that people who have gone through the programs, they wind up having a dopamine receptor response that triggers the cravings. And so they wind up falling off the wagon. And in fact, the conventional type of drug addiction rehab programs have pretty much about a 21% success rate on a good day, whereas the Hubbard method was getting a 75% success rate, but also it was a recruitment center for Scientology. And we have no connection to the Church of Scientology. That we just make that clear. It just so happened, though, that this program was something that caught my dad's attention. So when he wound up contacting them, they gave him a 4-inch thick binder full of these medical literature that showed why the program was so successful. And so he started sending his patients over and getting great results. Long story short was they wound up merging as HealthMed, doing a joint venture, and that group moved in to his office building, actually right across the hallway from his occupational medical practice. And they wound up doing a lot of great work together. In fact, we can talk about some of the projects like the New York Rescue Workers Detoxification Project, the Utah Meth Cops Project, and there was even the children of Chernobyl who were treated and things like that. But the thing, yeah, there was a lot of amazing work. In fact, it led to a Gulf War syndrome study, whose results were published back in 2019. But anyway, the program has been very, very successful, and the reason is because it does reduce the body burden of these fat stored toxins. Now, you've done an excellent job with the heavy docuseries. And I think the audience, most of your audience has probably seen the docuseries, so they have a really good idea of the problem with chemical toxicity and heavy metal toxicity and all that. So I don't need to go down that path too far, but just know that the real reason that these are problems are because of mitochondrial dysfunction and oxidative stress and many other things that cause neurological disorders, endocrine disrupting, thyroid conditions, in other words. So there's so many different ways that these chemicals and heavy metals are affecting the body. And we really needed to remove them. But until my father met these Scientologists, there's really no way to detox chemicals. And to this day, the only literature that you'll find is based on our studies. So today I'm involved, though, and it's because of how my wife's health declined, and we wound up being told by her primary care practitioner that we should just, to handle hyperthyroidism, mind you, to take radioactive iodine therapy and just destroy that thyroid, and then she'll be fine on synthetic thyroid.
What a great idea.
Isn't that? And it wound up actually having the opposite effect. And at that point, I realized that we were under what I've coined in my book, the social allopathic conditioning spell. And so we just blindly accepted whatever, they told my wife to do. So now, after the fact, we wound up doing some research, and we found out if we just done two things differently, like stopping the prepackaged processed convenience fast foods and eat more organic and the whole foods and don't overcook them and all that, and also detox her, then we would not have had the problem we do today. In fact, my wife is essentially disabled. She's not able to really get around without a wheelchair, but she can hobble, from the wheelchair to the car from the back door. But that's about the distance she can cover without being totally wiped out. So,
well, I'm sorry.
We realized that, we realized that we'd made a huge mistake. And actually, I was so angry because I realized that the detox program my father had was so powerful that we could have possibly, prevented her from becoming disabled. Unfortunately, there was no center that was active during this time. This was 2012. And prior to that, my dad's team had all moved the facilities over to New York because from 2002 to 2007, they were running the New York Rescue Workers Detoxification Project, which ultimately treated over 5,000 first responders, volunteers, and the civilians who were in the area at the time who found the center. They all got through the program free of charge thanks to donations and grants. So they never came back after 2007 to open up again in Sacramento. So we really didn't have an operating center that we could have put her through. And I was extremely angry at that point where I realized that we had messed up. And so we wound up figuring out what could we do. And I realized that if I didn't bring this to the public, it was going to die on the vine. So from 2012 to about 2016, I was doing a lot of research. And the reason that it took so long was, firstly, we had blinders on. We were looking at this from an occupational medicine and drug addiction rehab framework. And it was a case of the fact that the world is experiencing so many different conditions that are caused by environmental toxins. And there's nothing that they can do really about it except, detox protocols. And I believe yours is absolutely perfect as a synergistic protocol to ours. So the thing is that there's just, we didn't know any better at the time. So we felt that it was important that we get out there and start preaching like you are to the choir, if you will, but to people that understand this, that there is a great need for it. So we get out there, and I realized that if I didn't spend time researching all the different conditions that are being caused by these chemicals and heavy metals, that I wouldn't know where we should be focusing our energies. And so what I did was also find ways to improve this detox program. We haven't really talked about the original Hubbard method and what it was like, but I did go through it in 1986. So if I may, I'll tell you that it used to be 4.5 to 5 hours a day, and it was essentially 21 days.
Lose a few pounds cooking in the sauna.
No doubt about it.
4 or 5 hours a day.
and also it was like 21 straight days. And there were no binders, which was a huge miss because after going through a daily session, you're still going to be detoxing at a higher level. And we should talk a bit more about the actual science behind this so people have an understanding. But finishing the story here, so the Hubbard method would be really grueling. And I knew that the connection to Scientology, the 4.5 to 5 hours a day, and all these other, types of problems like no binders was going to be a problem for the public. And so I had to spend some time also researching how could we improve it. And the first thing we realized was that we didn't understand what's called the pharmacokinetics of niacin. We thought we did, but everybody believed it was the niacin flush that is the reason why our protocol is so, needing niacin. And it turns out that wasn't the main reason why. So I guess maybe I'll just go ahead down the path of the science behind this. So the thing is with niacin, there's two separate effects that are caused or triggered by niacin. And a lot of people know about the flush. The flush is something that causes redness in the upper body because of vasodilation, where it opens the capillaries and allows more red blood cells to flow through. And then you're also having a itchy, prickly sensation because there's a slight histamine response. So we use a lot of high-dose vitamin C, by the way, to help mitigate any types of histamine reactions on this program, but I just wanted to point that out. The other thing, too, is that the niacin induces a secondary effect because during the time that it's metabolizing, it actually affects ATP production. So it reduces or inhibits ATP production, which is what the body runs on, right? So we need to produce ATP, and the mitochondria are the reason that we do that. So when the niacin is metabolizing, it literally has the effect of reducing ATP. So during the time or after the time that it's metabolized, it actually then overshoots when it's starting back up to produce normal ATP. And so this overshoot is about 4 times normal levels, which translates to an actual increase of toxins. Because earlier, I mentioned the fact that chelation and things like that are they're able to work with the body's ability to release toxins during normal activity, but now we're releasing toxins at 3 times normal levels. So the what's called rebound lipolysis was the actual effect that we were looking for to actually detox the body faster than normal. So once the niacin wears off, that triggering effect lasts for 6 hours. And so we want to take advantage of that period of time in the sauna. We only do about 75 total minutes in an infrared sauna now, but it used to be that with the old program, they would stop at the point where the rebound was actually triggered the fastest or the most. So that was a big problem. We didn't have binders to take care of any of the toxins that were still elevated, being liberated at elevated levels. So it was a thing where a person would have headache, nausea, flu-like symptoms, malaise, and things like that after a daily session with the Hubbard method. But now we've used or incorporated binders, and so the whole program is far more effective and far better for the end users. So it's improved for those 2 reasons. But there's a third thing that's very important, and that is they were using dry saunas throughout the entire 30 years my father was involved with these Scientologists. And the dry saunas actually take a lot longer for the body to release toxins. Now, I know you're a Therasage, I guess, rep, but the thing is, Therasage is one of the better portable saunas for detoxing the body. And although I prefer cabin-style saunas, the fact is that infrared saunas actually liberate toxins at a much higher level. And Dr. Dietrich Klinghardt has shown that in his studies where in about a 1-hour period, a dry sauna will be mostly water. It's about 97 to 99% water and 1% salts, whereas with an infrared sauna in 1 hour, you've got 85 to 87% water, and the remainder is the sweat that produces the actual toxins. And also, you'll find uric acid, sulfuric acid, some salts and things like that, but it's the toxins that are coming out with the infrared sauna at higher levels. And just to cap this all off, it's not watery eccrine sweat that's liberating lipophilic toxins. It's actually the sebaceous sweat. So basically, you need to know that the sebaceous sweat is caused by sebum that melts in the infrared sauna at lower temperatures than a dry sauna. So the sebum is a very lipid or oily material that the sebaceous gland produces, and it's connected to the hair follicles. So when we sweat in a sauna, we're actually sweating toxins out through the sebaceous sweat. So
because they're fat soluble, all the
they're
fat soluble toxins are in your
and
fat sebaceous glands, and that's how they get out of you.
Yeah, because they're also hydrophobic. And in fact, the reason this is funny is because I get people who show me these debunking articles that say, you can't sweat toxins out through your sweat glands in a sauna. And I go, that's right, you don't. They say, well, wait a minute, you wrote the book. You wrote this book on it. By the way, sauna detoxification using niacin. Follow a recommended protocol of Dr. David E. Root. Get a shameless plug in there. But my answer to them on why you do not sweat toxins out through your sweat glands in a sauna is because you have to look at the word toxins. They actually have, the word actually has a meaning, and toxins are an antigenic poison or venom of plant or animal origin, derived by or produced by microorganisms, and in low concentrations in the body can cause harm or disease. But nothing about heavy metals or man-made chemicals. So the actual term for that is toxicants. So once you realize that, we don't sweat toxins out through the sweat glands in the sauna because of their sebaceous sweat that we're actually liberating toxins by, then that debunking article has been debunked.
Yeah, great. Yeah, we love debunking those detox articles.
Oh,
right?
yes, we do.
Yeah, because it's just, as I've presented in the last over 500 podcasts, there's overwhelming evidence that so many toxicants are in our body. We're getting in the air, food, and water, and they are causing a lot of our chronic health conditions. And so that's why it's so important. We look at some of the statistics of that Finnish study that was done using just regular Swedish or Finnish hot saunas, that using a sauna 5 times a week, you have a 40% reduction in all-cause mortality. That is it's just beyond comprehension. You use a sauna 3 times a week, you have a 25% reduction in all-cause mortality. So Lila says you want to get in a sauna at least 5 days a week. So what are your thoughts on that?
I actually sauna for 30 minutes every day. The only times I don't sauna is when I'm going to be working out in my vegetable garden and I know I'm going to be sweating. So, but otherwise, before I'm going to be on camera, because I do tons of Zoom consultations and training meetings and things like that. So anytime I know I'm going to have a morning full of meetings, I know to set my timer for the sauna to preheat 2 hours before my first meeting. And that way, I've got the preheat, the sauna time, and then to get dressed and have breakfast. So it's just part of my routine. And I'll tell you what, I turned 61. I turned 61 this September, and I feel like a healthy 30-year-old. So nice. I really can't believe I'm in my 60s now.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, detoxing is so anti-aging. I mean, I don't think really? People realize not only prevention of many health issues and symptoms and resistant weight loss, et cetera, but it's incredibly anti-aging. Can you talk about that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it is the oxidative stress that's the main reason for that. And one of the things that is important to really understand is that mitochondrial dysfunction is the root cause of many diseases. They're non-communicable and non-genetic. And the studies are showing that. In fact, I kind of chuckle because I have a whole slew of studies that I've pulled that show that mitochondria are the target of environmental toxins, firstly, and that mitochondrial dysfunction is the root cause of most non-communicable and non-genetic diseases. And I can list off a ton of them, but probably your audience already knows most of the kind of diseases I would be talking about. The thing is that the medical industrial complexes, I call them, don't have any solution for the chemical toxicity problem. So they're not going to be able to help with these. And I think the problem with conventional medicine is the fact that they're too compartmentalized. And they're too centralized, so they're not looking at the body as a whole like a functional or integrative medical practitioner would. And so when we see that mitochondria are the root cause of many diseases, it's apparent that we need to support mitochondria. And fortunately, I see trends going that way. But in reality, if you're not dealing with the barriers to health, which would be the environmental toxins, which once they become, or once they enter the body, they become xenobiotics. And that means basically, substances that are foreign to the body. And once they get in there, the liver cannot process them. Our livers have never adapted So they don't know how to break down these lipophilic xenobiotics into water-soluble derivatives that can then be easily detoxed out. So after a while,
Yes,
they
thank
become
you. I want to stop you right there because that's so many people, so many doctors will say, oh, your liver just detoxes you. You don't need to do detox. Your liver does that. But the liver doesn't recognize and cannot process these, over 100,000 chemicals and 2 to 3,000 new chemicals in the year. And now we're going to have AI making new molecules. So it's just we're really working against a lot of our biology, our ancient biology is really up against a lot of issues with the chemical onslaught that we deal with every single day. So for anyone listening that really wants to detox their body, go to heavymetalsquiz.com. I created a quiz for you. It only takes a couple of seconds. Based on some lifestyle questions, you can get your toxicity score and get a free video series that answers all of your frequently asked questions about how to detox your body. Check it out, heavymetalsquiz.com.
Exactly. And so what happens to those chemicals and heavy metals that were never intended to be in the body? They wind up getting sequestered in fat. And so the fat itself are the fuel cells for the ATP production, because every cell in the body has mitochondria, but not all cells have the fuel. So the triglycerides get broken down into their main components, which are glycerol and 3 fatty acids. And there's literally millions of them in a fat cell. But the mitochondria in the fat are going to use some of that. And then a lot of the stuff that's produced there, like the free fatty acids, are going to go feed other cells in the body to produce ATP. It's during the time where the free fatty acids are leaving the fat cells that some of the toxic substances are being also siphoned out. This is something else that is not very well known. So anytime you have lipid mobilization, you have release of toxins. And this is why the rebound lipolysis is so important, because the body's always going to be liberating toxins during ATP production. It's always going to be, in fact, if you've ever done a HIIT workout and felt headachy or nauseous after the fact, they tell you it's a buildup of lactic acid. But in reality, you have a lot higher or, much more toxicant flowing into the bloodstream and causing all kinds of problems with like the gut, the brain, the tissue, or the muscles and joints and things like that. So anytime you've done a HIIT workout and felt headache or nauseous, it's actually the elevated release of toxins.
I don't have that problem because I don't do HIIT workouts.
Well, you probably detoxed. You also detoxed a lot, right?
Exactly. No,
yeah.
I do cardio, but it's not super intense.
Well, actually, I feel like the sauna is a pretty good cardio exercise too. So if I don't get exercise, I definitely will be in the sauna for it. But there's so many health benefits to sauna.
Yes.
But anyway, when we do take the niacin, though, we do see a release at about 3 times those normal levels. And now that we've kind of explained a little bit more about the way that rebound lipolysis actually is the main action that we look for with niacin. In fact, there was always a benefit to the flush. Thinking about the fact that when you have vasodilation and the toxins that are bloodborne at the time are going to be pushed out to the skin layers where they can then be sweated out in the sauna. That's actually a very good benefit. However, the flush is too unpredictable, and it also will go away on a program like ours because we're doing niacin daily, as a chronic use, and therefore the very thing that causes the vasodilation, which are prostaglandin PGD2 hormones, they'll deplete out of the cells after about 10 days. So if people are concerned about the flush getting more intense each day as you take niacin, it actually goes away. So it becomes a thing of the past. And so we don't care about the flush. And a lot of people are concerned when they are starting out on something like this, that if they're not flushing anymore, that then they're basically not going to be getting the benefit. And it's not the flush. It's all about the rebound lipolysis.
Okay, great. And so explain what the rebound lipolysis is again, exactly.
So when niacin is ingested for about 2.5 to 3 hours, the body's metabolizing. And in fact, niacin has a half-life of 20 to 45 minutes, and it takes about 5.5 half-lives for those that nerd out on this stuff like I do. But after it wears off, then the body is able to resume normal lipolysis. And that's that breakdown of the triglycerides, by the way. So once the niacin is completely worn off to the point where the body's able to resume, it's kind of like if you can picture me dangling a rubber band from my fingers. This is normal lipolysis, where the triglycerides are being broken down into glycerol and 3 fatty acids. And if you're on niacin, it's like you just stretch that rubber band down, and then after about 2.5 to 3 hours, it's like you just shot that thing up in the air. It's an overshoot because the body's able to resume the normal production of ATP. And so there's about 4 times normal levels of the free fatty acids that are measurable in the blood plasma. And that translates to about 3 times the normal levels of the toxins being released.
Yeah, sounds like that'd be great for weight loss.
Actually, it's I've seen it improve chelation. If you think about it, chelation is able to deal with whatever's in the blood at the time that you've had the treatment. So if somebody were to take niacin and do a rebound before chelation, they get better results. And I know this because I've had people, especially those who've had gadolinium toxicity. I believe you had Debbie Heiss-Lambert on not too long ago talking about the gadolinium problem from MRIs. That's a show worth watching if you haven't, people. But the reality is that I've had plenty of my clients who have had chelation treatments during their program with my program, and they have gotten better results than their practitioners have ever seen.
Great.
So
fantastic. Yes. And, of course, this is going to potentiate whatever detoxification strategies you are employing. So let's talk about your specific protocol that you recommend for infrared sauna use. Because there are a lot of people listening that have infrared saunas that want to, you might as well get the maximum benefits for the amount of, return on investment you're spending with your time and money, right? It's a lot of time you're investing. So tell us, what is your exact protocol?
So let me just first say that a lot of people do buy saunas because they know they're good for detoxification, but they haven't quite heard about this program, which, I can't blame them. I mean, we brought this to the program or to the public in 2019. For over 36 years, we were in occupational medicine. And so most people never heard this, but we've got over 15 published studies. In fact, I should back up a little bit further here and say that in the 1980s, the California Medical Board actually challenged my father for using this Scientology Hubbard method of purification rundown for occupational medicine. And my father submitted a 50-page response letter, which is in the back of my book, by the way. And there's 23 pages of that were cited medical literature. And the California Medical Board reviewed that and gave him their blessings to carry on. And not too long after that, the state of California became his largest client.
So, nice.
Think about it. We're occupational medicine, so we dealt with employers. And the state of California, being a very large employer, they were using our centers. So that should tell you how important or impressive the 50-page response letter was. But it also was based on the Hubbard method. And so it was talking mostly about the flush, although rebound was known. As a matter of fact, I should point out the fact that back in the 80s, we knew about rebound lipolysis, but we were basing our information on a study that was done on sheep. And apparently sheep metabolize niacin within 50 minutes. Whereas a human, we found out in 2014, it takes them 3 hours. It takes us 3 hours to actually metabolize it. But he knew about it, and it also helped to explain, by the way, why the 4.5 to 5 hours were needed. Because if you're rebounding and it takes a while for that to come back down to baseline, then it made sense to my father. But the program itself today has diverged quite a bit from the Hubbard method. So we don't even compare ours as some people might. But we take the niacin at specific doses, and I will tell people that it's very important you understand the dosing and the timing. This is not a protocol you dabble with. You need to understand it fully. And buying my book, you'll find the actual process, the procedures to do it. And I also make available a $15 PDF. It's $14.99 on my website. It's called the Protocol Guidebook, and it has the most updated information that eventually, once I add more, mostly user experience type improvements, then I'll make another edition. So I'm already on the second edition of the book. Anyway, the Protocol Guidebook is something that will just give you everything you need to know to do the program. But I will also preface this by saying that there are precautions and contraindications people need to be aware of. You don't do something like this when you're pregnant or breastfeeding, and you definitely don't want to do this if you have severe kidney or liver damage. Hemophilia is a problem. Certain heart conditions, especially with pacemakers and defibrillators. Although apparently some of the manufacturers today say that you can use an infrared sauna. But there are those preclusions and contraindications to look into. And also just know that if you don't understand how to do the program, don't dabble in it. It can cause problems. So we're liberating toxins at 3 times normal levels, and our protocol is designed to keep pace with the elimination of these liberated toxins. So that's why it's so important. Otherwise, you're just going to have redistribution that's going to lead to all kinds of further complications. So.
Yeah, and it's like anything, you can go low and slow. Some people can only do 5 minutes of sauna to start, and you just kind of have to slowly work your way up, like an athlete, like someone just starting out running. They don't just immediately start doing a marathon. You've got to work your way up. You can think of it like that.
Exactly. And it's important that people understand too, if you are trying to reverse a condition, that there are certain ways that we can modify the program. An example would be, let's say you've had your gallbladder removed. You definitely don't participate in part of the program, which we haven't even talked about yet, but there are some oils that are involved, and they're essential fatty acid oils, and we would not use those with somebody with their gallbladder removed. So, but the thing is the protocol is one where we take the niacin and we, based on the correct dose and timing, we start the exercise at about 2.5 to 3 hours after the niacin has been ingested. And at about the 3-hour point, we want to be in the sauna. And or at least by the 3.5 hour point, we want to be in the sauna, because that's going to be the peak of the rebound. And this is where the actual toxins are going to be excreted through sebaceous sweat. Now, during the time that you're in the sauna, you're going to be definitely staying hydrated. We keep you well hydrated with water. And then after each sauna cycle, which there will be 2 in an infrared sauna, you're going to be taking electrolytes. So we keep you well replenished with electrolytes, because we do sweat out the good stuff with the bad. So, and it's mostly the minerals. But the first sauna cycle is typically a 45-minute time frame, and then the 5 to 15-minute cool down is where we would do the electrolytes, and then we move on to another 30-minute sauna cycle. And again, we do stay hydrated, but this time we drink a beverage called CalMag, and it is an original Hubbard method drink, and we approve it because actually Hubbard managed to figure out how to make calcium more bioavailable. Maybe some of your audience knows that calcium is a very alkaline material, and it kind of will just flow right through the body if it's not either dealt with by making it more acidic or processed in a way that makes it more bioavailable. But for us, we like the apple cider vinegar. It's more natural. So we use calcium and magnesium. It's actually calcium gluconate and magnesium carbonate, and blended with apple cider vinegar in a 2-to-1 ratio. And that CalMag beverage has several purposes. Firstly, it was designed to keep the muscles, from getting too crampy or, getting twitches or spasms, because when you're in the Hubbard method, in a dry sauna that runs 180 to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're in it for 4 hours or 4.5 hours, you tend to lose a lot of calcium and magnesium. And so they needed to replenish the calcium and magnesium. But also in this day and age, as we've been kind of alluding to here, is gadolinium toxicity. Gadolinium and lead both store in the bone. And by having the CalMag beverage, we're able to help displace the gadolinium and lead from bone. And in fact, any adipose tissues like adipose marrow and adipose brain tissues, we do detox. And the brain is 50 to 60% fat, although not all of that is adipose tissue, but the brain does detox with this program, as evidenced by IQ testing that we used to do. And in fact, I should mention that when I went through the program in 1986, I reclaimed 10 points.
Wow.
And that was a pretty average level. And also the brain fog, the brain fog lifts. And so those are good evidence that the protocols detoxing the brain. Of course, we don't have any studies that we've taken fat biopsies of somebody's brain, but just the subjective viewpoints there. So In fact, when I went through the program back in 1986, I actually was going through it kicking and screaming. In my second edition, I finally admitted why I went through the program in 1986. But just long story short, the fact was is that I didn't want anything to do with this Scientology nonsense in 1980. It was 1986, and so I was literally not wanting to go through it. But on day 33, they I think. Were kind of punishing me for being such a bad patient. I went through it 33 days, but they were looking for a specific effect. And in my case, I hit it, and it's called end phenomena. And I hit that point, and I realized that this program actually had some value. And phenomena is characterized by having an overall sense of well-being, high energy, stamina, and performance. The brain fog lifts like mine did, and I didn't know I had it. The IQ score increased or reclaimed, as I prefer it, by 10 points. And also my color vision improved or was more vivid. My sense of smell and my sense of taste were more vivid. So I was really appreciating smells and the tastes of food and things like that. And then also the dreams became more vivid. I remember them better. And to this day, that's all true. So, going on 61 here, I feel like a healthy 30-year-old. And it's truly something I hope for everybody. But I got to tell you, back in the 80s, we weren't being as polluted as we are today.
No, and it's insane what's happening in our environment, just in your home alone. What most people are using for their cleaners and, much less walking outside, breathing the air, which is the main source of toxin influx into the body.
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, the commercials make it sound glorious to have fragrances in your house and things like this. And oh my gosh, those are some of the most toxic materials that you can have floating around in the air. But also chemtrails are real. I mean, there's no doubt about that anymore. They started to ban them in certain states like Tennessee. So, but the fact is they've been spraying us since, the last 2 decades or so, more heavily. In fact, I did a little mini docuseries or documentary, on chemtrails back in 2016. And I was actually alarmed to see that the CIA's largest chemtrail contractor, Evergreen Aviation, is in my backyard, kind of. I've got an airfield in my neighborhood that, because I live on old, one of these decommissioned Air Force bases, but it's a still active airfield. And Evergreen Aviation had one of their largest hubs here. So that was rather alarming. That's why I did the documentary on it. But the thing is that I found the patents for their planes and what they were spraying and things like that. And it's truly alarming. But it goes back to the Ho Chi Minh Trail. They were actually cloud seeding during the Vietnam War to cause the Ho Chi Minh Trail to be washed out, basically, so that the Vietnamese could not use the trail to transport, arms and food and things like that. So it goes way back. In fact, the military has wanted to control the weather for so long as, weaponize it, basically. But I understand the nature of chemtrails very well, and I could go down this path for a long time, but I'm going to stop right here, just saying that, we can't do anything.
I want to give thanks to one of our sponsors, Caramel Collagen by Everbella. So collagen, as you know, is a very vital building block for our skin, our hair, our nails, our joints, and our bones. But starting in our 30s, our collagen levels start plummeting. They start going on the decline. And, we need collagen to prevent sagging and to give us that plump, youthful look, that glow. And what you may not know is that most collagen supplements, they're full of toxins and fillers like glyphosate, like arsenic and other heavy metals that actually disrupt your body's ability to regenerate collagen altogether. And that's why I love Caramel Collagen by Everbella. Not only is it rigorously tested to be free of toxic metals, it uses a unique liposomal delivery technology to improve absorption. And it's absolutely delicious. I love taking this. I put it in my coffee in the mornings. And so right now you can try Everbella's Caramel Collagen for 30% off. Just head over to everbella.com and use code Wendy30 to get your discount. It sounds like another podcast. I have not done one on chemtrails yet. I don't want to get people all ruffle their feathers, these conspiracy theories, but it's just, I think it's more mainstream news now that
it is now.
The geoengineering is going on. It's being funded by Bill Gates, and it's one person, but it's just big problem.
Right. Well, I mean, the military has been using it to actually communicate with ultra low frequency waves by bouncing those off of the ionosphere after it's been seeded with aluminum oxide. So they can talk to the deep underground bases and the submarines and things like that. So, it's not just like geoengineering for climate control or things like that. There's all kinds of reasons they're spraying us. But the problem is that stuff comes back down to Earth. And we can't do anything about what's being absorbed into our skin or breathed in that's coming from that. So, here I try to live a pretty toxin-free lifestyle, but there's not a whole lot I can do about, these chemtrails.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing you can do about what you're breathing in the air. You have to breathe, and you can control everything in your environment, every morsel of food, all the beauty products you use, or whatever. You still have the biggest exposures, the air that you breathe. So you have to be on a detox protocol like this if you hope to have good outcomes for your health. You have to do something. You put sauna, foot baths, supplements, whatever, antioxidants, whatever, all of the above. Ideally, you've got to add this to your health protocol.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think I've covered pretty much all of the actual protocol from the standpoint of it takes about 2 hours. So you're going to exercise 20 to 30 minutes and then a total of 75 in the sauna with a 15-minute break. So it works out to about 2 hours out of the day. And because of the fact that the body's not able to produce ATP energy for about 3 hours at normal levels. I mean, it's not like it turns it off. That's the Krebs cycle. You die if that happened, but it shuts it down to a point where it's not able to produce enough, and so or produce sufficient levels, let's say, to keep you from feeling fatigued. And a lot of people will set their alarm for 4 or 4:30 in the morning, take their niacin, and then go back to sleep during the flush if they're still having one, and then wake up at 7 or 7:30 in the morning and then begin the exercise and sauna. So that's how a lot of people have figured out how to fit it into their daily schedule. But with the original Hubbard method, we would take the niacin and we'd be right into the exercise and then right into the sauna, and it was very grueling.
Yeah, it sounds like torture. Yeah, and so this period where you're doing kind of the 2-hour protocol a day, is there a finite period where you're doing that, and then you're kind of an intense detox, and you're moving into like a maintenance period?
So the protocol itself is more intense in the first 7 to 10 days. Absolutely. In fact, I've had so many of my clients report back that they feel that after the 10th day that it just smoothed out. But it's different for everybody because everybody's at different levels of toxicity. They've got different things they're trying to overcome. And by the way, I've got to tell you, I'm amazed by all the things I have seen reversed with this program. And in fact, there's some testimonial videos on our website that people can look at that show, from the people who've gone through the program, what kinds of things they've reversed. But because we really had blinders on in occupational medicine, we weren't thinking about the conditions that we could reverse at the time, because we were dealing with acute poisonings from workplace exposures, or in the case of like 9/11, the New York Rescue Workers Detox Project, from a disaster like that, or Chernobyl, or the Utah meth cops. They were basically exposed chronically to the chemicals used in manufacturing of meth. Which are like at least 12 different solvents. And, can you imagine just when somebody's busting a lab, they're getting sprayed or the melee, stuff's flying everywhere and they get doused with this stuff. I've got an interesting case where a detective from New York came into the center for 30 days, and every day on the program, his towels were so colorful. They were either tan or purplish blue, or what I show as a tie-dye towel, where it was all of the colors.
Wow.
And in fact, the purplish blue I identified as Drano, one of the solvents used, sodium hydroxide. And so that's kind of interesting. There's also a towel on our website you'll see that's from one of the New York rescue workers that was showing high levels of manganese, manganese used in the steel construction. And so anytime they were lifting up any of the debris during the cleanup efforts to ground zero, there'd be a new dust cloud that came up, and they weren't wearing PPE, personal protective equipment. They were pretty much bare mouthed out there, and they were getting the stuff inhaled and also absorbed through the skin. So this one first responder, his towels were purple, blue, kind of like the Drano one, but it was actually manganese. And
that's in jet fuel also.
Yeah, in fact, that's exactly how we got started with all this. Was JP7 exotic jet fuels for the SR-71 Blackbird, but anyway, so I think from the standpoint of what's involved with the program, I hope that we've kind of given people an idea. But again, there's a lot more to this. There's essential fatty acids, there's lecithin. And in fact, people with MTHFR, for example, who think that they can't do this program, absolutely you can and you should. We've never had a problem with MTHFR gene polymorphisms. And the reason is, or there's a couple reasons, but firstly, MTHFR polymorphisms tend to affect the body's ability to detox normal toxins, if you recall the definition. So we're not talking toxicants. There's not a person on this planet whose body has been able to adapt to detoxing most of these man-made chemicals, especially the persistent organic pollutants. So when it comes to the MTHFR polymorphisms, that's one aspect of it, is that, yeah, you're not going to detox these anyway. So we'll have to help you with with sauna, sweat, and binders. And then the second thing is that MTHFR polymorphisms can lead to undermethylation. Well, when somebody has undermethylation, yes, niacin can be a concern. And that's because niacin is known as a methyl sponge. It takes up methyl groups. But on the flip side, we use lecithin, which is a primary source of choline. Now, originally, the lecithin was an emulsifier for the oils, and it would help break them down so the body could digest them better. But lecithin is a primary source of choline, and choline is a methyl donor. So we see that balancing out. I've never had a problem with anybody with MTHFR going through our program.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm sure that's a lot of people listening are concerned about that for sure. But really anyone that has chronic health conditions, that has, complex chronic illness, chronic fatigue, or mystery illness, your number one job should be detoxification. So I feel like the sicker people are, the more toxins their body is holding on to, that is promoting and a big underlying root cause of these health issues.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, this is probably a good time for me to mention the fact that I am training holistic health practitioners, functional medicine doctors. I even have some actual medical doctors in some other countries that are learning how to do my program. So I have a detoxination certification program. And by the way, I should point out, we've trademarked the word detoxination. Okay. And detoxination is a concatenation of detoxification and decontamination. And so we trademarked that. And so detoxination is what I am and what I train others to do. So I love working with practitioners to get them trained up, because this is absolutely something that will get to the root cause of just about any condition. And it's probably the baseline for any health and wellness program.
Yes, yes. And so your website is getdetoxinated.com. So tell us more about your practitioner program. I bet it seems like this would be fine for, perfect for anyone that really wants to do a deep dive on how to detox and, using infrared sauna. We have a lot of nerds listening that would love to nerd out on this program. So tell us more about it.
Oh, I'd love to nerd out with you. I offer a complimentary Zoom consultation too. So in fact, you can book a time with me at heal.me/detox. And I love, sharing this, because it's something that is so new to the public. They've really not heard of this. And if they have, it's something that people need to know the source of where they can go to get the information. And right now, I currently am it, although I really am looking forward to seeing a lot more people trained up to do what I do. I think we really need to help a lot more people out there to recover in a way that's a lot more holistic than anything they'll find in conventional medicine. But the detoxination training program actually goes much deeper into the science behind how the program works, the case studies, and also how to tailor the program for people who have conditions. Gadolinium was one. You have to tailor the program for anybody who's toxic with gadolinium. Anybody with MTHFR, we have to modify the program for that, especially adrenal fatigue problems too, because we don't start somebody off with 45-minute sauna, then move them into a 30-minute sauna. You have to titrate up really on sauna too. But I have ramp up programs. I even have a program I offer for first responders, because the firefighters are never going to be able to do a 30-day program if they're active duty. They're not going to be able to commit 2 hours a day to this. I understand that. In fact, I just recently did a presentation down in Rancho Cucamonga where I was speaking to first responders down there, and I already knew in advance that they weren't going to be able to do the program. So I offer a niacin flush sauna detox, which takes care of those toxins that are already bloodborne. And it's also a great way for people to use it as a primer for our full program. So you can actually just work with the niacin to get a flush and then get into a sauna. And I explain all that in a document that I make available to people. But, there's a lot of different things that I teach people, especially those who have no holistic health experience, but are very much into what we would call health enthusiasts. So the program is great for people who want to be able to deliver this program to others, but I also do remote detox coaching. So as of 2022, I no longer have an active center, and mostly that was because of COVID, but I've been working with hundreds of clients around the world, and this has been something I would not have been able to do if I was in a center. So I do remote detox coaching. And again, anyone wants to connect up with me and find out if the protocol's right for them, I do offer a complimentary Zoom consultation at heal.me/detox.
I want to take a minute to thank one of our sponsors. Therasage saunas are what I highly recommend to all of my patients for the dozens and dozens of benefits imparted by infrared saunas. But what I love about Therasage saunas is that they are portable, they are inexpensive, and they have lots of interesting things that you can add to it. You can add ozone, you can add red light. I love that they have all these options that you can stack all these different health modalities and get the most ROI out of the time you're spending in your infrared sauna. So go check out their top of the line infrared saunas at therasage.com. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so I encourage you guys to take advantage of that. And so, Dan, it was really fantastic having you on the podcast. You're obviously such a wealth of knowledge and have, just decades of education and experience and, all these different, subjective stories you have with patient success stories, which I want to get into in a second. But yeah, between you and your father, you have so much experience working with different populations to detox them. So why don't you tell us about some of the stories, some of the kind of recoveries that really stood out in your mind?
Well, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the one that you can find as a testimonial on our website. I'm allowed to use her name because she's obviously recorded a testimonial, but her name is Patrol Woman Jessica B. Rivers. At least she was back then. She's retired now from the force. But she came in because her coworker, the detective I've mentioned earlier who had the colorful towels, she came in because she was also involved with some of the meth lab raids. And at first, I thought that was the main reason she was coming in to detox the chemicals. And it turned out that she thought this program might help her with some other conditions like fibromyalgia and chronic migraine, which were the two I knew about at the time. So when she came to the center, when I still had it, she basically said that she was hoping to be able to have fibromyalgia and chronic migraine resolved. And I knew I could, but with fibromyalgia, see, I do another technique too. I put them on a beamer mat, which is a PEMF for those who don't know, pulse electromagnetic fields. And there are coils in a mat that are controlled by a computer that turns these coils on and off, and they resonate with the body at certain frequencies to improve microcirculation. Well, I know when I lay down on that thing, I can't feel it, but I turned that thing on for her the first day, and she started squirming around on it and going, "Ooh, this feels weird." I'm like, "You don't feel that?" She said, "I do." And then it dawned on me. I said, "Wait a minute. Did you have an MRI when you had that slip and fall?" And she said, "Yes." And I asked her, "Did you get the contrast dye?" And she said, "Yes." So it was at that point I had the aha moment because it was the first time I'd ever dealt with anybody with EHS, electrohypersensitivity. So she was literally feeling the gadolinium that was resonating, and it could have been some other heavy metals too. I should talk about another interesting topic that's recently come up too called galvanism. Don't let me forget. But so she was feeling this beamer mat. Now, after 30 days on the program, she could no longer feel it. So that was the clue there that it was a heavy metal that we detox. But it confirmed what I had been hearing from people in my Facebook group. So there's plenty of people who are EHS who have, or they suffer from EHS, who have gadolinium also. And that's why I connected those dots. But I believe mercury and some other metals are able to actually resonate with these frequencies and cause people who are EHS to feel a beamer mat. But that was a shocker for me because it was the first time I'd ever experienced it. But then after she went through her program, which I should mention too, almost in the first week, her migraines were gone. That was kind of fun. Just she was using chronic migraine medication every day, and so that stopped almost immediately. The fibromyalgia cleared up, and also about a week or two after she went home, she called me up and said, this is the height of allergy season in New York, and I would normally be like down because of it. I'd be like suffering. And she said, I don't feel a thing, which was wonderful news because I didn't know that allergies were something. Now, again, it's a one-off case, but then about a week or two later, she calls me up and she said, Dan, I never told you, but I had endometriosis. I no longer have endometriosis. So, it was really kind of interesting to see her case, and you can hear her say it in her own voice on her website. But the others, are people who have had all kinds of chronic conditions that tend to go hand in hand. I mean, people get or they report they have mold, Lyme, EBV, all these other types of candida overgrowths and all this that I commonly see all of these, co-infections going on with people. And after going through the program, I've seen all of those reversed. And I know we're not detoxing Lyme. I know we're not detoxing Candida. But what we are doing is getting the body healthy enough to be able to fight back. So that has been something that was also totally unexpected, but a wonderful sight. So.
Yeah. Our medical director has said many times that you have to detox heavy metals before you can really truly address and reverse Lyme and other, Lyme-like infections. Yeah, and when heavy metals have a huge impact on your immune system, a dramatic impact in reducing immune system function, contributing to overreaction, like we see with histamine reactions and autoimmune and things like that. So just many. I haven't talked enough about immunity and heavy metals, but they have a huge impact.
Absolutely, yes. And again, this is truly what I would call the foundation for any kind of health and wellness program. So I feel like, you can test your clients or patients all day long, but get them detoxed, and then what they have left is what you deal with. So it's truly that amazing. And I'm happy to be able to bring this to the public because if my father had retired and I didn't do this, it wouldn't be available to people today. Otherwise, you'd have to go to the Church of Scientology and go through their purification rundown, and you would only do that once, and you would never want to do it again.
No, I mean, it just sounds like absolute torture. I mean, especially going to a regular sauna where it's 180, 200 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, I can barely do that for 10 minutes. That's why I advocate for infrared saunas, because they can do the job at much lower temperatures, and you're much more comfortable. I just can't imagine staying 4 or 5 hours.
It's a good point you bring up because I determined after getting involved with the infrared saunas that part of the reason why it took 4.5 to 5 hours was not just because of the rebound. It was because of the fact that people could only stand to be in those oppressively hot saunas for 15 to 20 minutes before they have to cool down. So they go through repeated cycles of heating and cooling, heating and cooling, heating and cooling. And in a 1 hour period, if you keep doing something like that, you're never going to get the core temperature up to the point where it produces a sebaceous sweat. Whereas in an infrared sauna, you can run them at maybe 135 to 140 and be able to open the door, which is another good thing with an infrared sauna. Most people don't realize is that it's not a convection sauna like a dry sauna. You're basically being, or you're resonating with the sun even at 9.4 microns. And that's why, we get heat from the sun. So these sauna manufacturers of infrared saunas, they've got their saunas tuned to 6 to 12 microns. And that way we resonate with the infrared from the sauna. And so the 1.5 inches deep that the infrared waves penetrate is where you're going to start to see the water molecules actually resonating and producing the heat internally. So it's not like being microwaved, but it is an amazing difference because since we now, have the infrared wavelengths resonating with the water molecules, it doesn't matter if you open the door. In fact, it's better that you do, because you get that cold burst of air that makes you feel cooler, plus that it forces the emitters to turn back on. So you're only getting the benefit of infrared when the emitters are on.
Yes. And so tell us where we can get your book, Sauna Detoxification Using Niacin, learn, do a deep dive and get this protocol.
Yeah, this is available on Amazon, and I also do have it at Ingram Spark. I'm still trying to figure out how to make a link available for those who don't like to buy from Amazon, but it is available there. And the protocol guidebook is it's something that people are entitled to. If you bought either the book or the Kindle version, you're able to register on my website at getdetoxinated.com/book. And it's called the book resources, the menu item is. And just give me proof of purchase, like, a picture of the cover of the book or a screenshot of your Kindle version. And I approve you to get into the members section, where you can then download the protocol guidebook plus some other forms and information and things like that. A lot of people want their primary care practitioner or their functional medicine doctor or somebody to take a look at this program if they've never seen it before. So I have documents in there for people to be able to share with their practitioners, so that they get an understanding of what the program is. And in fact, I do have a PhD level overview of the program that I make available on request. So this is actually something that I had originally written for a very prolific chemical toxicologist by the name of Dr. Harold Zeliger. I've been working with Dr. Zeliger on a project to help him with his oxidative stress index questionnaire. It started off as a 400 question questionnaire, and we've whittled it down to 8 questions that I'm now working with my clients to compare the results. And so I sent this PhD level overview to him, and I was so thrilled with his response. He told me I should submit this as my toxicology thesis, PhD thesis. And he said it was that good. So now this also kind of brings me back to the galvanism. Let's not forget to talk about that. There is something that people need to be aware of that is very new. There's not been a published study in the United States. There has been one in Russia, but Dr. Scott Schroeder has presented, and I've seen several of his videos, especially the one to the FDA, and I met with him, and we became friends, and I introduced him to Dr. Zeliger. But his research over 10 years as a foot and ankle surgeon has found that when there are differing metals in the body, let's say a titanium tooth implant, and he puts screws in when he's doing foot or ankle surgery, it is actually causing, in a lot of cases, the body to become a biological battery. So you're getting voltage and currents that are not expected by the body, and they're high enough to trigger the nerves. And so some people, after getting these screws where they've had other metals in their body, suddenly start having conditions that look like, seizures or tremors, even paralysis. But chronic fatigue is a huge symptom that he's noticed. But there's a lot of different symptoms that he's seen that once he's removed the screws, so for example, the bone has fused and it's no longer needing the screws, he removes those screws, and overnight the conditions go away. And this is something that is so alarming and so cutting edge, if you will, that I've been helping him with with using AI to actually go through his research data. And then once he's finished with the paper, Dr. Zeliger is going to be one of the peer reviewers. So I want people to take a look at Dr. Scott Schroeder's videos and check Galvanism out. Just put Scott Schroeder and Galvanism in the search engine, and you'll be amazed to see what he's discovered. And although he's the only one really I know of that's researching this in the United States, there is a paper that is also in Russian that people can find too, but you'll need something like AI to translate it. But anyway, very cutting edge, and it can explain a lot of things that people have not been able to identify as what's causing, like essential tremor, or maybe even Parkinson's, or who knows. But it's worth looking into.
Thank you so much for that, y'all. I'd love to get him on the podcast to discuss that. Yeah, because there's so many people out there suffering, and there's very simple, logical explanations for many of these things. Simple solutions. It's not as complex as many people think. And I firmly believe no matter what health condition you have, there's a way to address it. No matter what you have, there's a way to improve symptoms.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us again what your website is and how people can contact you and take your course?
Yes. So getdetoxinated.com is the website. And if you want to reach me, it's dan@getdetoxinated.com. Also, again, the book is available at amazon.com. And if you go to my shop, you'll find I do have the remote detox coaching as well as the detoxination training course. It is on sale, 50% off right now. And it's because I need really to get a lot of people trained up, because we are working with the NCCA, which is the National Commission of Certifying Agencies, to get this as a true certification. Right now, it's a certificate training program, but anybody that goes through the program with me now is going to be able to have the certification once it's done. So I'm really cutthroating the price right now to get as many people as I can trained up into this program. And there's a lot of benefits to becoming a detoxination, by the way, and they're all spelled out in that in the detoxination training, if you will, product on the shop. But anyway, I do have a Facebook group I invite people to join, and it is also the name of the book. So just look up Sauna Detoxification using Niacin, and you'll see it's the Detox.ination. So I kind of played on words there, Detoxination. I just made it the Detox I-Nation, because I feel like we're trying to start a movement.
Yes, absolutely. And, I really commend the work that you're doing and the meticulous attention to scientific research and the whole methodology that you go about educating people. And this is really just one of the best podcasts I've done on infrared sauna use. So really, really important for people to pay attention to this and to get your book and start employing this when they're doing their infrared sauna. And also, any of you doctors listening, any of you health practitioners and coaches listening, you want to add detoxification to what you're doing with your patients. You really, really do, because as you guys know, listening to this show, or anyone that listened to my heavy docu-series, where you can learn more about at theheavymovie.com, there's so many different chronic health conditions that are caused by toxins. So it needs to be a part of any doctor's protocol working with their patients, or any patients looking to get better.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that too.
Okay, Dan, well, thanks for coming on the show. And everyone, I'm Dr. Wendy Myers. Thanks for tuning in every week to the Myers Detox podcast. I'm just so thrilled. We've had over 6 million downloads of the podcast so far we've been doing this over 10 years, and over 500 podcasts. We're, I guess, edging up on almost 550 shows. Been doing this for almost 11 years now. And so I'm just so thrilled for all of you that have just continued with me on this journey, and there's so much more to explore on the show. So thanks for tuning in. I'm so grateful.
The Myers Detox podcast is created and hosted by Wendy Myers. This podcast is for information purposes only. Statements and views expressed on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Wendy Myers and the producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse effects from the use of information contained herein. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.